現在カナダ国内には数多くの日系団体があります。生活、文化、事業、さまざまな分野に関わる組織に数多くの人々が参加しています。前回に続き今回もカナダ国内各地の日系団体を紹介します。
The facility that we're in right now is actually a joint facility. So we have run this facility in partnership with the Argyle Community League. And in that partnership, we both share the expenses of operating the facility, hiring the center manager, purchasing the furniture and equipment, all of that kind of thing. So we've been partnering with them probably for about, it's getting on to 20 years now. Prior to that, the Edmonton Japanese Community Association rented the second floor in an industrial area for a number of years before finding this location. For many, many years prior to that, the Edmonton community used to meet in very early days when the new immigrants, when people started immigrating to the Edmonton area at the Bissell Center, which is in the basement of the Bissell Church. So they used to have gatherings there, they used to have socials and some potluck dinners, that kind of thing. I think they also used to have chow mein dinners as well. I think they used to sell chow mein lunches to the community. Then at that time, as the community progressed and continued to develop, they formed a food co-op. So lots of times, many activities form around food. But because it was very difficult to find Japanese food ingredients here, they used to do a bulk order from Vancouver, and some of the business people in Edmonton actually used to look after purchasing it and then distributing it. So it started off in that way, meeting in people's homes, that kind of thing. Then, even at the time before there was an actual place to meet, they used to have about 3 events a year. So they always held a children's Christmas party, and they rented a hall in another community center. And then they used to have an annual picnic, and that was held in one of the parks. So they would rent space in the park and meet there for kind of a potluck. Everyone brought their own bento and shared it. Our association is a very mixed association. So we do have people of Japanese descent here. We do have people who are of non-Japanese descent but are interested in some kind of, some aspect of Japanese culture, whether it's language or the martial arts or music, like the taiko group, that kind of thing. And then also we have Ijusha, who are also our members. We do have one group that is, I think, geared more towards the Ijusha. So that's a Nihongo Kids, which is a group for children, preschool-age children, and their parents. So they meet here once a week. For me, I've started to get involved in several different things. So I've taken the taiko workshops. So I love the taiko music, but I'm not very musical. But I took the workshops and it was a lot of fun. I've become very interested in learning the Japanese language because I'm third generation Sansei. And although I was apparently bilingual when I was very young, then I've lost it all. And when you don't have the opportunity to speak constantly with people in a second language, then you tend to lose it all. So I've attended Japanese language classes here for about the last 3 years. I'm interested in, I took the tea ceremony program and I do the folk dancing awadori. So it's just being, I think, interested in the cultural roots. But you know, right now I think for me, if there was one focus of interest, is just improving my language skills. I think I always felt very comfortable in the Japanese culture. Not that in our family we celebrated all of the traditional Japanese occasions like Dole Day and things like that, but my mom often cooked Japanese food, so you know I was always very familiar with Japanese food. When we had family gatherings, it was always the potluck, but it was always pretty much Japanese food. So I'm very connected that way, and have always felt very comfortable with things Japanese, I guess, and then just really wanting to learn more about it, about about those aspects of the culture.
We have an enormous amount of diversity in this community. After talking to different people, you have a different perspective. Like some people say, well, Japanese language and culture is not part of the Japanese-Canadian thing, right? Other people are saying, well, why are we working on human rights and stuff? That's not, and we have such a small community here. It's like, okay, well, you may not necessarily agree or embrace the culture, but it doesn't mean that you have to disassociate yourself from the community. There must be something else. If you're interested in history or human rights, then you can latch onto that piece of it. And that's really the challenge I think a lot of these community centers are facing now, is that they're saying, well, we're intermarried now, a lot of the kids, it's hard to get them out, they're not interested or whatever. Well, our community is shrinking is what their comment is. Well, in reality, the community is expanding. Like the interest in Japanese culture, and we talked about Japanese restaurants, is getting overwhelmingly huge. So, you don't have to be Japanese to enjoy that. But at the same time, the people that have some Japanese history, well, we want to try to retain that in some way, shape, or form. So that's really the challenge. It's not the community shrinking, it's changing. And can we adapt as community associations to that changing need? And if we can do that successfully, then we have a big, broad base of people to draw from. But that's always the difficult part. Right. You have to change your ways somehow to do that, and that's always a challenge. Although, our membership may not support that, but the number of activities that are happening here is huge. We have a very strong immigrant population, and they seem to be growing in terms of, the language school has 100, 200 students in there, so it's amazing there. And then when we do these festivals, again, a huge draw from the greater community. So, I think if we look back to what was done, we're doing a lot of different things now, and I think a lot of those will be more relevant to people. And I think if we keep going down that path, you just have to be really creative, I think, thinking about ways and to, get people interested. The dance and the drum and all those things are very mainstays of our community, but there's probably a lot of other things, like the manga thing. A big community exists with that, and we haven't really touched at all on that area. So, yeah, I don't think it's a question of can we expand, it's how to do it, which area to go to, because there's so much to choose from. The interesting thing, I talked to some people that came from Japan, they look at what we're doing about the dancing, and he goes, well, why are you doing that? Like, that's not even Japanese culture today. That was like 40, 50 years ago. Nobody does that now, right? It's not, so we've crystallized a part of Japanese culture, and kind of, it's almost like a museum, but we haven't evolved that. So, but like other elements like taiko and stuff has really taken off, and a lot of the taiko groups are flourishing across the country now. And manga and all those things that we're seeing a very huge imprint of the Japanese culture on the worldwide culture. Effectively, is becoming absorbed, and that's kind of a reflection, a little bit of multiculturalism, I guess, but a lot of it's more globalization, right? And that's just, well, you don't have to be Japanese to do those things. If you like to do it, then let's do it, right? So our, I guess, challenge is saying, well, how do we embrace that? How do we evolve with that and get other people involved? We're seeing some evolution of that with the taiko group, for instance. It's definitely becoming more established, and there's not that many people that are Japanese in that group, but they have a close association with our community. We're doing Japanese festivals now that we open the doors to the broader audience, and the overwhelming response to that. So, I think it's starting to happen a little bit. I don't think we've gone fully on board where we see like half of our membership is not Japanese. I haven't seen that yet, but that probably, if we're going to be successful in the future, we're going to have to get to that point and try to embrace that. And we see there's some good models across the country with some centers that have been able to do that. On the flip side, we've seen examples where if you haven't been able to do that, well, it slowly fades away. So that's really going to be the challenge. Oh, we did a stampede breakfast too. That was introduced a few years ago as well as sort of a way to get us to know the community around here, because we're in a largely residential community and most of the people are Japanese around here. So in Calgary, the thing to do is to host the Stampede Breakfast, which is free and open to anybody. And we sit there and flip pancakes and cook up sausages and serve that to the community. And we have our cowboy hats on and stuff. So that may be a little bit strange, but if you talk about true integration, there's a good example of it. This is a great community here. I think they've been very accommodating. Yeah.
We had the committee of 6, which included 3 Buddhist members and 3 non-Buddhist members. And so in 1976, when we decided we should have a formal organization, you could take over a bit.
Yeah, no, but we had to celebrate the centennial. Okay. We had nothing, so we thought we should have an organization and take part on the centennial. Right. And so we met a few times, invited some people, and sent letters out to them asking them if they would, what they thought. Mm-hmm. And we formed the Kamloops Japanese Canadian Association at that time. Mm-hmm. And members were they were very active. They joined very quickly. Mm-hmm. Mind you, I think our membership was $3 at that time, $3 per family. But they got behind it. Mm-hmm. And then the centennial year was very busy. Right. And we had different activities going on around Kamloops, and also we formed a dance group, Japanese dancing, and we had actually the only male dance group in BC. We danced in various different organizations here and there around BC. So it was a busy start.
At the centennial meeting in 1979, when they were going to close down the centennial, we had the logo, the centennial logo, and Art Irizawa, who designed that, said that they would retire that logo. And so I said, look, we created the centennial, our association, the centennial, would you let us use that as our logo? And they granted us the use of that logo, so long as we don't bastardize it. Right. And so we've been proudly displaying the centennial logo as our logo, and more or less trying to keep the centennial idea alive. Yeah. And unfortunately, because of the 95% intermarriage, the centennial activities of the Japanese being ever present here is slowly fading. And one of the ideas that I've been trying to promote here is to have the association become closely affiliated with our sister city, and more so with the Japanese consulate in Vancouver, so that there would be a strong Japanese tie with this association and with the Japanese background. We had an intergenerational meeting, and they said that we have to pass down our heritage to our children, and that is important. And even grandfathers and grandchildren have to come together and keep them together. And that was most important. And a lot of the people that are intermarried, the children tend to come to the Japanese side of the marriage, fortunately.
Something that interests me is with this board up here, the donation board. And I think, the Japanese Canadians, the intermarriage rate's about 90% or 95%. And we have an awful lot of them in Kamloops, right? So we have little kids, grade 6 kids and so on, or even different things we have here. The kids come here, okay? Their name is not Japanese, okay? But their grandpa is, or somebody is, and they'll look at that and say, that's my grandma. That's my grandpa, and they're telling all their friends, and they're quite proud of it, that this is it. Or they come here and they say, I'm Japanese, they'll tell us. They don't look at, but they'll tell us. I'd say, just a rough guess, there were the 30 or 40 young mothers, married to Caucasians that are in Kamloops, and for various reasons are here. We have had preschool Japanese classes. We don't at the moment, but we have, as we have teachers, everybody's volunteer, so as we do it. Once a month, we have an udon lunch, noodle lunch, and people come. And that's a fundraiser, but it's a cultural thing too, We have a few, but I find that most of the people that have come don't know the Japanese culture. I think Japanese Canadians who've gone to Japan to study, or Caucasians who've gone to Japan, and they've come back. We have a Caucasian man that would love to teach tea ceremony. He learned it and he loves it, okay? But the ones from Japan, born in Japan, they don't seem to, I'm generalizing, but I can't find people who can, show us how to do a tea ceremony. Right. We have all the equipment here. I think more of the senseis and so on are interested in learning. And so right now we don't have too much going on because we don't have the instructors. Parents will tell me right now, the ones that are intermarried, when the kids are little, okay, and these are the mothers are from Japan, the kids were here all the time. But the mothers have told me now their kids are in grade 3, okay, or grade 4. They don't want to come here, okay, because their friends don't come here. So I'm telling them that we have to put on activities where all their friends can come too. If you want your kids to come, then every child in your son's class has got to be just as welcome. Otherwise they won't come, and they don't really want to come because their friends aren't here.
We're standing here behind the Powell Street Festival. It's August long weekend, August 4th and 5th. So we're in Oppenheimer Park, where the main site of the Powell Street Festival, and we've got a few off-site neighboring venues as well, but this is the central area. So yeah, big festival that started in 1977. The area known historically as Powell Grounds, which was very important in terms of there being a large Japanese Canadian community that lived here pre-World War II and were subsequently interned. And so in 1977, there was a move towards wanting to celebrate the history. It was also the anniversary of the first Japanese person who immigrated here to Canada. So there was that. If you walk around, we do a lot of different things. We do a lot of traditional Japanese arts and culture and heritage things. We do we have a tea ceremony, there's ikebana, bonsai, there's martial arts, there's some traditional Japanese folk, some music. But then we also have other groups that do very contemporary things that you don't necessarily identify as being Japanese Canadian, quote unquote, but that's part of their identity and part of what they want to share, and so they come together and perform. And it could be a pop band, it could be something more contemporary like a visual artist, and but their heritage is Japanese Canadian. And so over the years, we've also morphed into really wanting to present professional artists from across the country, as well as bring in some Japanese American or some artists from Japan. So there's a variety of things going on here. So now I think you still have that core community group. And I mean, if you look around and at some of the volunteers, there are some people who were here at the very beginning. They've got every year under their belt, and then you've got people who are the next generation or the grandchildren who are, new immigrants, and then you've also got people who don't have Japanese heritage, ethnic or cultural background, but they're just really curious and they want to participate and they want to volunteer. a lot of people from the downtown east side that come and volunteer, and it's very important to them, and we recognize that too. Like, we're kind of, especially the Powell Street Festival, I mean, there are some organizations that are still here, like the Vancouver Japanese Language School, which is a very important organization that's still here, and the Vancouver Buddhist Temple that's still here as well. But, you know, a lot of the businesses have moved on for different reasons, you know, for various reasons, but you know, people have different ways of connecting to a culture and their own sense of identity, and I think it's really important that you find that within yourself and you celebrate it in whatever way you want to, and this is a milieu for you to be able to do that. And I think also about learning about your own culture, your own heritage, and learning about other cultures just helps encourage, you know, exchanges. And I don't, you know, I myself, of course, I don't know, well, I shouldn't say of course, but I am half Japanese, so you know, there's things that I appreciate and love about my Japaneseness, and there's things that I would take from my other culture, you know, and it's all about like figuring out what works for you, and you take, you leave, you know. But I think stories are very important to be passed along, to communicate the histories, to really just get to learn, to pass on that knowledge in whatever ways possible, like who wants to take what, you know, here and there. I don't think it's going to die. Like, I mean, I think the vitality here that you can see there's different organizations throughout the city that are Japanese Canadian, quote unquote, and they're super vital. They play different roles within Metro Vancouver, and they thrive, you know, in many ways. So.
今回8つの日系コミュニティ団体を紹介してきましたが、組織をいかに存続していくかが今後の課題となっている団体が大半を占めていることが分かりました。コミュニティの維持を次世代にどのように任せるのか、日系コミュニティの存在に意欲を示す世代がどこまで続くのか、そしてカナダの日系社会は今後どのように変化していくのでしょうか。